Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh, yeah. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh, yeah. Shut your ass up,
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast here on the internet, made by Al Gore. It's just a series of dump trucks and tubes, folks, and we're on it talking basketball, talking Boston Celtics basketball. I am Sam Jam Packard. In the middle of your screen is Jay King from The Athletic, and we got Brian B. Robb from MassLive.com. Together we are Still Poddable, a Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast. Today is the free episode, and that means we are coming to you on the CLNS YouTube page, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app. Use promo code CLNS if you want to save money on those fine products. We're kind of in the middle of the doldrums of the
I got to stop
season.
you for a second. You tried to make me look weak on the internet.
We've waited for the showdown. It's like 3 days coming.
I was watching Good Will Hunting, and Robin Williams in that says that he benches 285. And I found that to be not maybe a credible statistic. And I was tweeted this, maybe like 11:30 at night on a Friday. And then Jay, out of nowhere, what'd you call me? I
was feeding my son, so I had time.
But you attacked me first is all what I'm trying to say.
You soft as puppy shit, perhaps something.
Yeah,
like
I believe that's what you said. You said I was soft as puppy shit. And so
I see no lies there. But then you try to claim that you could bench more than me.
Yeah, that was based on really nothing. I don't know how much you can bench.
You're like Will Hunting. You're not any good part of Will Hunting. You're not a genius. You can't solve math problems that nobody else in the world can solve.
I know a Fourier series more than you.
You're not loyal like gorillas to your best friends. You're simply a weaker man than I am. That's maybe physically, but we just talked about how much we bench. We won't say. I won't shame Packard on this, but
no, Jay benches more than
safe to say I bench more than he does, and
but Jay
we should have known that from what happened in the low post when we play one-on-one.
Jay hasn't been in the gym for a year plus, and I've been in the gym.
I just did a 45-minute Peloton ride.
You haven't been lifting weights for the past 9 months. When's the last time you actually benched?
Probably like a couple months ago.
Okay. At that time, he did bench more than I am putting up right now. And so kudos to you, Jay. You are the strongest man with T-Rex arms on the podcast.
It helps so much to have a tiny wingspan. I'm 6'2" with a 5'10" wingspan, which is impossible. And
so I have a longer wingspan.
It really helps you with the bench press.
Some would say the strength of a man.
That could be Robin Williams. That could have been Robin Williams' strength too.
The strength of a
he
man
doesn't look like a super long armed guy.
Wingspan. No one would ever draft you because of your negative wingspan. Is all I'm trying to say.
No one would ever play me in a D3 basketball game. So yeah, I don't think I was getting drafted.
I mean, after the push-up contest last year, I think this like in the offseason.
Remember, those never were aired.
And then the unaired, the lost videos,
the lost tapes.
I did push-ups for no reason.
You didn't do push-ups. You couldn't do the challenge, if I remember correctly.
I did the challenge. No, I what? You're lying on my name again.
Breaks, but he did it. No, he finished it.
I don't even remember what the challenge was, but that just shows how memory works.
50 push-ups during the show. It wasn't a hard challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it would have been for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you failed, though. If I remember correctly, you couldn't do it. And then I bench pressed more than you. It's just putting it on the record. Let the record reflect. I'm stronger than Jay. He's a weak man. You guys going to go to a new segment? The debut of a new segment?
We can start basketball talk now.
Stats from B-Rob. First time using that one. That's
Can we do that again? I need to hear that that sound again.
Stats from B-Rob.
Did you make that sound yourself?
No, Sean did. Sean made that. I was describing what I kind of wanted to hear, and he just took exactly my example and put it into that. And so this is the first time I've played that sound before, but this is the first time we actually have stats with B-Rob. Stats from B-Rob. Floor is your B-Rob. Floor is yours. Prepared.
No, it took me by surprise last time. I was so flummoxed I couldn't even come up with anything. Yeah, so 2 days off here, guys. Did some random digging. Everyone's kind of confused what's going on with this team. And so I put the sleeves up, and Porzingis is the guy I wanted to look at here. And we know the lineup data. The starting five has been crap to this point, -10 net rating. Dreadful. Just like literally one of the worst starting units that's played major minutes in the league. Like over 100, 150 minutes.
They've played like the Pelicans during the minutes with their starters on the court. The 8-32 Pelicans. It's impossible.
Not great.
However, as I forget who was in the chat chirping at me, the shooting discrepancies are crazy. Now it's up to 27% the Celtics are shooting from three with that group, and 46% for their opponents, which will normalize on both ends and probably swing more towards the Celtics way just because they have such great shooters in that. But for now, they're in shambles. Total shambles.
So the shooting has been bad. The defense with the starting group has also been bad. Unrelated, and shot luck wise, you can go argue that however you want. But so I kind of did a little bit of a deep dive here into the bigs. And I wanted to look at the whole 1 big, 2 big scenarios and see what was working, what's not so far, and whether we can take anything from that, if that means anything to you guys.
Did you figure out that playing Neemias Kadam more was the answer to everything?
Yes. So that
someone has posited that might be the solution to all the Celtics problems. But I don't want to step on your findings here.
So okay, well, I'll start here. Let's talk single big here first, guy. I'll throw it to you guys for rankings here. If you were gonna rank as just a lone big on the floor, Horford, Kornet, Nemi, and Porzingis, who do you think would be the best? Who would you think or just rank them 1 to 4, however you guys want to do it?
I think Horford's probably been the best. The starting lineup with him has been dynamite.
It's got to be.
So I wouldn't be surprised if lineups with him as a lone big have been the best.
Cornboy is a statistical darling in terms of net rating. If we're doing this in terms of pure net rating, I think it's Kornet.
Packard nailed it. Kornet.
I am the smartest man alive.
Plus
Still
17.
Can't bench as much as me, bitch.
So Packard 1, J0. Kornet plus 17 net rating as a sole big in 305 minutes. 123 offensive rating, 106 defensive rating. So elite offense, elite defense with Kornet as the floor of his whole big. So again, a lot of that's with the bench, but when he has just been in there with the starters for a few games here and there, it's worked really well. Second has been Horford, plus 11 net rating. He's been perfectly great as with whether it's with the starters or with bench units as the sole big. Nemi, plus 10 net rating as a sole big. Also in 264 minutes, so a pretty decent sample size. And then we get to KP. And again, this is kind of mirrors what the starting five is. Minus 8.9 net rating in 231 minutes. So the single big is working as long as it's not KP as the single big so far this season. Is that a statistical anomaly, or is that something that needs to be kept a closer eye on here?
I think it's a statistical anomaly. 100% statistical. But it's also indicative of what's happened so far, but not predictive.
Right. Yeah, yes.
Right? Like, he came back, he's not in great shape. They have to adjust to him because he plays totally different style. Because of that, I think the 3-point shooting on their end has totally gone away. Because of that, because how poorly they're playing offense with Kristaps on the court, I think the defensive effort has waned. And they're also, during those minutes, giving up more threes because Kristaps just sags in the paint a lot of the time.
Right.
And I think the combination of all those things has produced what is to now a telling stat, but I don't think the Celtics should be worried about that. The only worry is that this stretch extends long enough and gets people frustrated enough that it leads to other issues.
Okay, but when does it stop being small sample size and start being a concern? Like, at what point does, like, yeah, this is indicative of bad play, but if you continue doing bad play, the sample size just grows. And I mean, Kristaps, I think, said it himself, he's still playing his way back into shape. Do you think it's just like him, like, not being ready for the season? He's a guy who came back way earlier from injury than anyone.
But he's also been hurt like 3 times since then. And so it's just a combination of when he came back, he wasn't in game shape, obviously, because he was out for so long. And then he hasn't really been able to play himself into a rhythm or into game shape since, because he's just been in and out of the lineup ever since. So
I think go ahead, Jay.
I
think that's offensively. I agree with you, Jay. Like, the argument way there. Defensively is where I'm actually worried with KP, because I think the defense around him has also taken a step back this year. Like, and then you throw him into that mix where I think that, again, if you go back to when they went into last season, what's the one thing I think a lot of us are worried about with KP is like, oh, how's this going to work defensively? And he exceeded expectations by far last year. And now this year, again, he's working his way back in, but he's been playing a lot of big minutes in these games. Like, he's already 30, 35 minutes. Like, Joe is trying to get him out there. He's played pretty well. He's had 3 straight double-doubles in a row here, but the defense is not like improving as has gone along here. So that's, and the shooting anomalies offensively is one thing, but defensively it's hard to see.
So in this 7-6 stretch, opponents are shooting 43.5% from 3 with Kristaps on the court.
Okay, so how much of that
that will never sustain. No matter how badly you play defense, that will not remain the same.
But
like, you could play the worst defense in NBA history, and that's coming way down.
But what if it's 38% instead of 46%? Like, what if it's like, oh, we can switch everything with all our other bigs on the court, and we not putting 2 on the ball, and we're not giving up as many open shots with other bigs like Al Horford. With Kristaps, we got to do some other defense because he's not moving around well. And we don't want to put him on the perimeter. Like, I agree with you that the percentage is way higher than you would anticipate, but it still could be the Celtics are just giving up more open looks than they would with other bigs out there because of just like movement limitations where with Kristaps is at this point.
But that's how they played last year.
I feel like Kristaps was out on the perimeter.
They gave up a ton of threes last season. They intentionally gave up a lot of 3-point attempts, which they seem to be doing with Kristaps on the court. They were just really smart about it. This time, sometimes they're being smart about it, and like DeJounte Murray just flames them. And so I agree. Like, so far, the defense there has been an issue. I agree there are certain limitations defensively when Kristaps is on the court. But everything we saw last season suggests that the Celtics defense can play at a super high level with Kristaps on the court. And a month and a half sample size right now, during which their numbers are actually pretty good, like, is not going to convince me to say that they're screwed defensively with Kristaps on the court. Just, I'm not ready to do that. I will not say that. I think everything will work itself out as long as they stay level-headed and work through this and eventually get to the other side. And he has to stay healthy. Like, he has to be able to play and stay in the lineup and figure things out with the rest of the starters, figure things out with everybody else. They have to give themselves time to do that, which maybe that doesn't happen. But right now, as bad as it's been, and it's been really bad, I don't think it's too concerning.
I'm not I'm on like the fence. I don't think it's concerning yet, but like if we get to February and we haven't seen either of these categories move much, then that's when I start to get worried. And so now we'll bring this now to the double big situation, which I think is a fascinating component of this. I'll throw it to you guys again. Like Al KP, Al Cornet, Al Qaeda,
Al Qaeda,
Al Nimi, Al Qaeda, right? Porzingis, Cornet. Who do you guys think has the best net rating out of those four combinations?
While I'm guessing, I'm just gonna say Jay was a little scared where I was going with that Al Qaeda joke. And so
no, I wasn't.
I know in your eyes, you were a fearful man. I think it's
please,
gonna be Al.
Please, everybody needs to watch the tape on this one. I was just smiling.
It's Cornet. It's Cornet Al. It's Al Cornet.
I would say Al Cornet followed by Al Nimi.
Both of those are great lineups. Plus 12 for Al Cornet, plus 12.7 for Al Nimi. The winner, Porzingis Cornet.
Weird.
A plus 32 net rating. Only
what's
54
the
minutes.
minutes?
Only 54 minutes. 54 minutes. So it's not. I mean, it's nothing. It's not a real sample size. And also, but the big one is Al and KP is plus 9 net rating. So all these
should Cornet just start?
Right. Well, that's the question. So that's what I'm throwing at you. Beginning of last season, guys, there was a debate who was going to start, and Al KP was like a legitimate. Like I was in play for a while until Al said, "You know what? I'm going to step aside. You guys get to roll here." Considering they're clearly at their best this year in double bigs, does that ever become a consideration? And before we get into this, Packard, do you want to go talk about our friends from Prize before we dive too much into this? But I think big picture wise, I'm wondering like if this should be coming up in meetings right now as a potential adjustment in the next few weeks if nothing changes with the single big with KP.
You know, if they do start Luke Cornet, I'm going to be there. If that's going to be the thing, and if there's going to be a way I'm going to get there, it's going to be through the Game Time app. Game Time is the best way to get better value for your tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They have all-in pricing where you can toggle and show everything up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a view from your seat. It has the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I think it's very hard to discuss starting lineups just considering how many people have been in and out of the lineup for the Celtics this year. If you go double bigs, does Drew immediately go to the bench? Then if you really start cooking with gas, you go double bigs and start Luke Cornet?
No, I mean, you're not doing that. Like Cornet is not. We're not going that well. Al KP would be the. Even though you're right, logistically it would make sense though from a minutes management perspective. There is a degree of seeing like you start Cornet that way you can manage both those guys' minutes better. But it'd be a double switch like that would be. I mean, I'd credit it, but that would be wild stuff.
Do you guys want to hear a crazy stat?
Please.
Drew Holiday.
Do I need to play the music?
Corner
again?
3-pointers, 28.8%.
Ooh,
after
wasn't he like something crazy last year?
61.9%.
Oh my god! Holy shit! So what? Minus 33%.
Like what? How is that possible? How? And obviously, the sample size of corner threes is going to be very small, and it's going to be volatile because of the small sample size. But he never missed those last year, and he is constantly missing them now.
And yeah, that's why honestly, like if he's missing those, KP's shooting what 32, 33% from three. Jalen has been in a rut from three for a while, and that's where you get the offense with that starting group where it's been for the last 5-10 games, which has been garbage.
All right, so Jay, I'm making you Joe Mazzulla. You're in charge of putting together
Jay
rotations.
Mazzulla?
Sure, we can go with that. Put in your chips, your coins, turn them in. And are you making a change to, I guess, the rotation? Are you making a change starting line? Are you starting double bigs? Are you going back to Jaylen Brown playing all of the first quarter so Jason Tatum can get that early second quarter minutes with the bench? Like, are there any changes you're doing right now to the rotation to try and get the Celtics out of this little funk? Not the dance group, but the downplay and performance as of late.
Not yet. But I would be very open with the players about why. And my reason for that would be that they just have to figure this out. Like, obviously all the data says that Kristaps lineups with him as a lone big have been much worse. That the starting lineup with Kristaps has been detrimental. That, like, and if you were just to base it on this tiny sample size, it would be easy to make a change. But it's not about the tiny sample size. It's about reaching the potential for this group. And I think it's obvious that Kristaps Porzingis is a major, major part of that. And for this group to reach its peak, then you have to be able to figure it out with that starting lineup. You have to be able to figure out with Kristaps Porzingis as the only big man on the court. You just have to be able to figure all that stuff out. And so as painful as it is now, and I don't know how long it will remain this way where the Celtics are playing inconsistent basketball and shooting like shit, and their offense isn't working and their defense is getting gashed from behind the three-point arc. But you have to figure it out. And I think if it's playoffs and something like this happens where you're clearly performing differently, like, that's a different story. You have to have a much quicker trigger. But right now, in the middle of January, it's just something that they're going to have to play through.
But isn't it the coach's responsibility to, like, put them in the best position to win? Like, I agree with you.
It's not his. Well, I mean, it is his responsibility to put them in the best position to win. But to me, it's his responsibility to put them in the best position to win a championship, not necessarily to play well against the Raptors on Wednesday night or to play well against the Pelicans on Sunday night.
But was that with Al at center is your best position to win? Like the championship?
I think that's possible. I mean, 2 years now, they've been fantastic with Al in the core. Obviously, Kristaps missed a lot of time last year, and they didn't really skip a beat in the playoffs. That said, like, to me, when Kristaps is at his best and the Celtics, like, there's no answer for them. There's nothing you can do against the Celtics when they're at their best and they're operating well, and Kristaps is pulverizing smaller defenders down low, and Tatum and Jalen and everybody else is playing off that. There's nothing you can do. And I think it's worth continuing to stub your toe a little bit now to later on be able to run freely.
I agree. I mean, I'll give him the rest of January. That's like, I'm with you and Jen at that front of, like, you make a point of this to the stars, like, we're giving you these couple weeks to figure this out more. But then at that point, if we get to the trade deadline and there's nothing, the needle hasn't really moved with the starters, with that grouping, then I'm thinking about making the adjustment and not, like I said, I'd probably be more entitled to just go double big in the starting five and move Drew in that situation. I think that's the easier switch. But, and to your point too, Jay, like, you need to save Al regardless. Like, you can't, even if he is the best option right now, like, you can't be playing him 30, 35 minutes a night as a center, period, because that's just stupid in the middle of January to do. And you obviously want KP to be able to eat up those minutes anyway, but also find his form. At the same time, I'll throw this out to you, Packard. Do you want to guess what the Celtics record is over the last two seasons without Porzingis on the floor?
Well, pretty damn good, I would have to guess. I'm guessing winner. Well, how many games?
48 games.
48 games. I'm going to guess they're 37-11.
40-8.
Oh, wow.
So
is Kristaps the sixth man of the year? Oh my God, how pissed off would Payne Pritchard be if they just converted Kristaps to that guy?
Complicating factor to any switch there. That would certainly blow up his candidacy to some degree. That
would be hilarious.
Do you think Kristaps would accept that role? Like, I feel like he's the happiest man alive, but like, I don't. He's also got some pride there, and I don't know. Like, would he come off the bench? He did it in the finals, but that was because he's coming off an injury.
And this is why repeating. One reason why repeating is really difficult, because for so many reasons, what worked last year won't necessarily work again. But you still have to fight the human nature of knowing this is how we did it. This is how we used to be at our best. And maybe we have to shift a little bit. And to Joe Mazzulla's credit, I think he understands that. He's been adamant from day one that despite bringing basically every key player back, actually not basically every single key player back.
Let's not slander O'Shea Brissett like that.
That was not slander. It's not slander if it's the truth. You should know that, Mr. Lawyer.
I could argue slander.
They just, sometimes you need to find a new way. And I don't think they necessarily need to like scrap the old way at all. I think that might end up being their best way. But right now, it's very clearly not. And they've been off to bad starts like almost every game. It's wild to see how.
You're equivocating like a motherfucker right now. You're saying they need to try and adjust and do things a new way, but then they also need time to see if the old way is going to work.
Because I think at the end of the day, playing Kristaps Porzingis is going to be the best way for this group forward.
But even in crunch time games, though, that like, do you want to close if Al or KP at like the end of like winnable game? I feel like the one thing I'll give.
I think that becomes a question if you continue scuffling with.
That needs to go should now though. We've gotten to a point like he's force-fed that lineup in crunch time minutes in enough games here that it's been done.
But again,
after it's been dodged to start a half, both halves, like. In the course of a game, I understand you start a game with it, but if it's been bad in the first two stints of a game, you don't need to automatically go back to that at the end of the game for the fifth game in the row. Like if
I'm taking a wider view than like what happens in one game.
Global view, JK.
I'm okay with playing bad basketball at the end of a game, giving away a game in crunch time, if it means you get reps. Joe said a couple of times it's just training camp right now for that group. And they're not really practicing much. They don't have opportunities at practice to work with the starters in like a training camp setting. So you're getting your reps in the game. So far, they've played 138 minutes together. You could do that in a week of practice during training camp. You could get all those reps together in training camp. But if you're giving up stints because you're trying to win a close game against the Pelicans or something like that, like I just don't think that's smart. I think you need to iron everything out. Learn how to play again, and I think they'll get there. They're too talented, they're too good, they're too unselfish not to get there. It's going to happen to me. I just think right now it's just a process to figure that out, and like it's just kind of been longer than I expected. It's taken more pain than I expected, but. You know, I think they've been realistic with themselves. Porzingis, day after day, he comes out and he's like, this is my fault, guys. Like, I came back and I'm out of shape and everyone else is adjusting to me. And it's been tough on our whole team. And I think they understand what's going on. They're realistic with themselves. And if they stay that way, then everything will be okay.
He's had 16 games, though, now. I know it's been in and out, but, like, you can only lean on, like, the training camp stuff for like a certain amount of like 130, like that's not nothing. Like that's like a significant amount. And they played all together last year too.
So you would just scrap it? You'd be like,
no, I wouldn't scrap it. I would say I'm talking about
let's
end
just
game.
go with Luke Cornett in crunch time.
I'm talking
Doesn't
about
matter.
like
we don't have to prepare for the playoffs at all. We don't have to get these guys used to playing high leverage moments. We're just going to go with Luke Cornett in the final 3 minutes of games. Even if it's game 7 of a playoff series, Luke Cornett.
Where's Al Horford?
Here we go.
Where's Al Horford in this situation?
Al Horford, here we go.
Like, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I'm saying at the end of a close game, if the starting lineup looks like crap at the beginning of the first half and the beginning of the second half, I'm going to close with Al over KP. Like, and you can still get the reps for the starters in other parts of the game. You can do both, but you also want to win games. And build some kind of cohesion for the rest of the starting five, because it's not just KP we're talking about here. Like, other guys around KP have looked like crap with KP too. And how much
Everybody
KP feeds into that, like that's an open question. But the starters of Al have been amazing this year. Like, that lineup has been far and away the best lineup on this team. And so to ignore that to get an extra 5 minutes for a unit that has not looked good all year, time after time, that's where I'm saying, like, you need to draw a line there. Like, you can do both. You can win games and get the practice in for the starting five. And I think they need to look a little closer at that.
Some of us aren't okay with just playing bad basketball, Jay. Some of us, want good basketball. You can have better process. If they continue to fail in the process, you got to switch up the process somehow. And so
but there are many ways you can switch up a process without changing the lineup.
He's talking about changing the closing lineup. He's talking about winning basketball games. At the end of the day, the biggest flaw in the Kaizen growth mindset lifestyle is that you're applying it to basketball, where there is always a result. You either win the game or you lose the game. It's not like football where there's a tie. And so I think that's at some point, Joe Mazzulla has to be the one to be like, this isn't working and we need to make a pivot. And I understand that there's the working through the process and trying to give KP time, but at the other side of the coin, you have to start building winning habits and start like going to things that are actually working. The more you just have a failed, all of this is like it feels like some overreaction because they're 28-11 and still like have a net rating over 10. And so they're still a very, very solid basketball team. But at some point, like if you continue to struggle, you're not kind of building up the habits of a team that's going to go deep in the playoffs, and you can't continue to just play poor basketball over and over again and not expect that to bleed over into your kind of playoff potential.
I agree with you guys. There should be a point when he considers all that stuff deeply. I just don't think they'll ever get to that point because I think they'll just figure it out.
They're going to turn around before that. Yeah, no, that's fair. Like,
do we need a code word for like when they've reached that point? I think for the people in Still Poddable chat, come up with a word where you think you've reached the panic button. Yeah, just like where we think possibly. You guys think on that code word, and I'll tell the fine folks about our friends at Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now get up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. It is a daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for you and your lineups. So go to Prize Picks, download the app, and use promo code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app, promo code CLNS for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, B-Rob, I made Jay Mazzulla, I made him head coach. I'm going to make you president of basketball operations. You got a Jaden Springer contract and a couple first-round picks. What are you going to do with it, and why is it trading for Walker Kessler the only answer that I've seen out on the internet?
Danny Ainge, get on the line.
Am I taking crazy pills? They're going to trade for a 5th big? Like, why has that been the go-to trade of Celtics Twitter?
Because he makes less, because you can trade. That's the only intriguing player that makes under like $4.5 million a year that's probably available that would match with Jaden Springer.
Plus, he's a Danny Ainge player.
Exactly, it's Danny Ainge.
People will have rumors about him and think he's on the block. Just how it goes.
This is how it goes.
Is there anyone out there that is like maybe what position are you targeting? Why don't they just re-sign O'Shea Brissett, bring his energy back into the fold? Maybe Lonnie Walker still wants to play for the Celtics. Is there anything Brad Stevens can do in terms of changing this roster to give this team a jolt, or is it just a matter of fact of the guys on the court need to be better?
Yeah, you trade Kristaps Porzingis. You just take care of this lineup issue. No. I think realistically, no. Anything they do, they're not touching the rotation. Anything you're bringing in is just supplemental. And as Jay and I have talked about in last week, it's you also, if you're talking about a wing, I wrote about Javonte Green after the game on Monday, just as again, he's a minimum guy. He's just an option on that front. If you're not going to play Jordan Walsh, but at the same time, I think a very strong case can be made. Play Jordan Walsh, see what these guys can give you. And again, now I guess that's kind of a byproduct of them going double big more now, because that's been working. Is that there's certainly not minutes for Jordan Walsh when everyone's healthy, and there's barely enough minutes for Sam Hauser when everyone's healthy. And they're playing double bigs for 24 to 30 minutes a game. So yeah, it's honestly anything Brad Stevens is doing is not going to really impact the rotation when it's healthy. In all likelihood, you're just kind of going with maybe getting a guy that you trust that Joe will play when guys are out, so you can rest Drew more, or if Tatum Brown take games here and there, if one of those guys that hurts, you're okay. But outside of as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to make a move, it has to be for a former Celtic. So that's either Javonte Green, Yabu, or Tice. Those are your options.
Yabu's not on the block. Yabu's the best player in the Sixers in the entire city of Philadelphia right now.
They can't afford. That's a sad part. They should, but do they give up by the trade deadline will be the question. Are they so bad? Their schedule is just going to get tougher now. And so if it's they do have some semi-incentive if they shut Embiid down, maybe it turns into a fire sale for them this year. And they just take what they can get for the expiring guys like Gabo. Even though, like you said, he's been really good for them. They certainly can't afford to lose him if they want to win.
You can't trade your best player in the middle of the season. That's going to be like send Adam Silver in to take control of the team again.
Yeah.
Speaking of Adam Silver coming in and taking control of the team, he basically just, I don't know, this is a big news story here in Philadelphia, but the Sixers had this whole deal to build a new stadium in the middle of Center City, right in downtown. And then recently, Adam Silver basically just came in and was like, no, you're going to partner with Comcast, who owns the Flyers and obviously is related to NBC, and you're going to do a deal with them. And it's a weird deal where it's like a 50-50 merger, not merger, a 50-50 deal to build a new stadium, presumably for the Flyers and the Sixers. And it's right after NBC has signed this new kind of contract to broadcast the NBA. It's just very interesting. And the thing that's kind of makes it interesting is everyone in the city of Philadelphia, including the mayor, was like, this is going in centers.
What about that super shitty Eagles fan?
Oh, that guy, he got banned from all the games. But that's just kind of attending to, you don't mess with the birds here. It's a real cult. It's kind of sneaky. Tip, I could do all my grocery shopping during
I got a bone
Eagles
to pick
game.
with everyone talking about that video. That guy was terrible. First of all, that guy sounded like a horrible, horrible human being. However, how as a husband are you just sitting there like filming the guy? How?
He's a YouTuber.
How?
He's a YouTuber. He's got content brain.
That was pathetic.
Wait, I haven't seen the video yet. So the husband of the wife that was getting like harassed was filming it?
Yeah, these two Packers fans were filming his
The guy called her a C word. He called her like just horrible names. And the guy was just filming it calmly. Like, put the phone down and throw fists. What are you talking about?
Defend your wife.
I saw a quote from him that was like, it was a tough situation. He had friends there, like 2 other guys or something. Like, I don't care if he had guns on him. If he says that stuff, you got to throw hands. He could have a knife at your neck and you got to throw hands.
I don't condone violence as a city official in the state of city and county of Philadelphia. I could not confirm nor deny.
You just can't allow it. That guy would way cross the line. I'm with Joe Mazzulla on this one. Like sometimes you just got to let guys fight.
It's a coin situation.
Yeah. I mean, if you turn in a coin, then it's I'm not going to personally press charges. To get back to the Philly thing, I think it's just interesting in the context of who are the Celtics' new owners going to be? Because is it going to be some, I don't know, it feels like Adam Silver is basically just able to come in and dictate terms of the entire city of Philadelphia and their redevelopment because he wanted his NBC partner to make some more money out of their stadium. And we got a new story from Himmelsbach today that they're going to open up the bidding process on January 23rd for new potential Celtics owners. This is all wild, rampant speculation, but we have no idea who that person is going to be. But their relationship with the league office and the other owners it has this bigger implications. I don't think the Celtics are this always comes up. I don't think they're close. They're not going to leave, at least in the short term, to create their own building. But if you're in the money making business, which presumably you are, if you're building, if you're buying the Celtics, it's serves you better to have your own arena. I don't know if there's really any analysis or any actual question in this thing, but I'm just, pointing things out. It's going to be interesting, the interaction between owners and the league office, and especially we haven't seen the new ownership thing for the Celtics have any real impact on this season. I haven't heard any real rumors recently. But since that's officially going to start soon, it could become a talking point as we get do this again in a month.
Yeah. A lot could shift depending on who the owner is, how the owner wants to move forward. That's an enormous unknown right now for the Celtics, the entire Celtics organization.
And it could become a talking point. If it's someone I don't know, I'm just throwing if it's Bezos or something, or it's just someone who's at all controversial, it just becomes a thing that you guys are have to ask the players about. And then it's just another thing. And maybe they rally around the team because they hate the new potential owner. And it's a really thing that galvanizes everyone. But it is just another thing that
I might be ignorant, but why is Bezos controversial?
People generally don't love billionaires who hoard their
then
wealth.
They won't love any owner of the Celtics.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that
He's a chance to be a polarizing
anyone
person
who gets put forward who has enough money to buy the Celtics probably has some skeletons in their closet or has been in charge of some sort of corporation that has treated someone poorly. And so there's going to be some sort of kerfluffle or brouhaha or something that creates some sort of story. And it starts in 8 days, basically. So it's just going to be, we're going to have to sit back and take notice and figure out what that controversy is. I doubt it has really that many impact on the court. I am excited, and I feel bad for the first journalist guy in the media room asked Joe Mazzulla about it because he was going to dismiss it very quickly. But it is enough of a story that someone's going to have to ask it, and I look forward to that interaction.
That will be very fun. It is. I mean, the reaction in the short term of the season, if the deal, I think Himmelsbach, I think again they're trying to close the first part of the deal. I imagine at some point in the next 2 or 3 months while the season's ongoing. So that'll be a backdrop. But as far as this team goes, it's all everything, the arena stuff, whatever they do in the future, that's all going to be long term down the road situation stuff. What will be really interesting is for this summer situation, which right out of the gate, the money stuff is going to be right there. Are they want to come in as heroes and say, keep everyone together and we're going to pay $1 bazillion?
That'd be truly heroic.
Right. Literally do something that
people
no
love
other owner
Bezos.
does.
If Bezos does that, I'll buy everything from Amazon.
Right. So, I mean, that is in play if they're ready to do that.
And if they need to strip it down, all the questions we're talking about in this podcast become relevant to future decisions and not so far in the future decisions. How do you evaluate this season where the Celtics have not been able to play at their highest level with Kristaps Porzingis? How do you evaluate this season where Drew Holiday at age 34, is it? 33, 34, whatever it is shooting 34.3% from the field and has dealt with some nagging injuries? how do you evaluate all that stuff when to keep this group together, you're going to need to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in salary and luxury tax. Like those are going to be real questions and real determining factors for who stays on this roster moving forward. If whoever the next owner is doesn't have unlimited pockets.
Kristaps is the biggest one because he immediately becomes an expiring contract next season. It's like, do you trade him? Because if whether or not he shows up right now, they already showed that they can kind of win a championship without him. And if he continues,
but that gets harder if Al Horford is 39,
right.
And like it just gets harder and harder. So
Al Horford's a free agent.
Oh, he's coming back.
I can't imagine him going anywhere.
He's going back to Philly.
But oh man. But then listen, if he keeps playing like this, he's playing at a discount right now. There's no question about that. And that's a guy who's always gotten really good contracts over the course of his career. Outside this last two, he took a nice little discount for this last 2-year extension, but that'll be another fascinating subplot there, knowing that every single dollar spent is actually like $5 or $6 when you're adding to the roster at that point.
It's going to be fascinating. Whatever happens, we'll be here to talk about it and bring analysis to you. Just like we'll be here the rest of the week. We got a Poddable post game after they play the Raptors. And I believe, I don't want to spoil anything, but Jay King's talking to a big national guest for the show on Friday. So if you want to tune in to all of that, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. This is the best Celtics podcast, the best daily Celtics podcast. You could get some other, I don't even have a good insult for what I was trying to say, but this podcast is it's worth it. The other guys, they're just handing their stuff out for free, but you can go to patreon.com, get that boutique, high quality Celtics podcasting content. That is patreon.com/stillpoddable, the best Celtics podcast Monday through Friday. We'll be back tomorrow after the game. Celtics take on the Raptors. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Be back later this week.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh, yeah.
Go down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.